Previously on Unscripted.
But you're right. Do you go by just what they've done this year? Do you go by what they've done in their career? Because if you look at the goalies that Team Canada selected, none of them are really having such a good season this year.
No, actually, they all suck.
You're listening to Unscripted with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
Okay, Skip. So as promised, today is when we do our Best of 2024 Sports Edition. I know that both of us have been compiling notes for the past year, and we're ready to divulge our award winners. But before we get to that, have I got a story for you?
Have I got a little story for you?
You know, before we started, you said, I know how I'm going to start. And I was all excited because that like emphatic statement doesn't happen that often. Usually you're like, yeah, I know, I'm deciding, or like you're like, I know I'm going to start, but it's not like so sure. Like you were so sure. So let's hear it.
So I've known for about 6 days how I'm going to start this episode. Last week, I was invited to Joe's house in Burlington. We ordered pizza, we watched the game, and then later on we went to do some karaoke.
Very nice. I know you guys are fans of the karaoke.
So when we ordered the pizza, we actually went to go get it. It's a small pizza place that I've never heard of, you've never heard of, whatever. And on our way back, we wanted to stop at the grocery store to get Nestea. Because, you know, I love Nestea, and Joe does too, actually. I don't think he likes it as much as I do. I don't think anybody likes it as much as I do. So we go into the grocery store, and we're looking for the cans of Nestea, and we can't find them. And we go and ask somebody that works there, and we are told that Nestea no longer exists.
Yeah, right.
So right away, I'm like, wait a minute. The guy at the store can tell me whatever he wants to tell me, but I don't have to believe it. So the guy at the store says Nestea has been replaced by Fuse. And I'm going to show you what the can looks like.
Yeah, I know Fuse, yeah.
So obviously Fuse exists because I'm holding the can.
Of course.
Doesn't mean it's the same as Nestea though. And you know, I'm very fussy with my iced tea because, like, for example, there are many iced teas out there that I won't drink.
Brisk. Thumbs down.
Don't even say the word. I can't even say the word.
But so this guy thinks that what they have in his store is what exists in the world. Like if they are not carrying Nestea anymore, that means it doesn't exist anymore. That's the way I'm.
Well, that's how I understood it. So anyway,
yeah.
We have no choice. We have to buy Fuse, and we take it home, and we drink it, and it's not bad actually.
Okay.
In fact, you know, unless I was drinking them both at the same time, I don't know if I would even notice a difference. And then I took one home. Joe told me to take one home because I knew that I had the Nestea at home. And he said, when you get home, do a taste test.
Sure.
So the next day I did that. I tested both of them at the same time. And actually, I couldn't really notice a difference.
Who is Fuse made by?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So I looked at both cans, and both cans are pretty much, other than the design, they're pretty much identical. The ingredients are identical. The nutrition facts are identical. Both of them say naturally flavored iced tea. Both of them say made with real tea. And both of them are bottled by Coca-Cola.
Oh, maybe it is being replaced. Shoot.
So there's really no difference, again, other than the colors on the can and the name of the beverage. So then I Google it, and lo and behold, it's true. Apparently, because Nestea, the Nestea brand is really a Nestle brand, because, you know, they make other things. They make the powdered stuff, they make the frozen stuff, you know. And so Coca-Cola has been bottling Nestea for Nestle for I don't know how many years, since the 90s, I guess. And apparently there was some kind of, I don't know, conflict or disagreement or what. And Coca-Cola says, okay, we're not bottling your iced tea anymore. We're going to make our own iced tea. It's going to have the exact same ingredients and it's going to taste exactly the same.
That is crazy.
And sure enough, Coca-Cola went and did it.
So I was at Costco yesterday. They had like a pallet of Nestea, like cases. But I mean, that doesn't mean anything because obviously they could just have it in stock. It's going to take a while for the Nestea to be depleted everywhere.
Exactly, yes. So I went to the store yesterday and they had Nestea as well.
Without exaggeration, this is probably the biggest news in your world
Of 2024.
Yeah, this is huge for you, actually. And for a lot of people. Me too, actually, because we buy Nestea as well.
So anyway, now for all those listeners who might go out there looking for Nestea, you'll still find the Nestea, the powdered version. I think you could still find the frozen version. You might even find the version that comes in a carton, like it looks like a milk carton. But I haven't been able to find any of the cans. Now, again, luckily I have some cans at home, so I'm good for now.
I mean, I'm sure if anybody has a stockpile of Nestea, it's you.
Right. So, do we have any listener mail?
Mailbag.
Sure, we have a little bit. So last episode we did our, pop culture edition, TV, music, movies, that kind of thing of the year, favorites of the year. Stephanie from Montreal, the top TV that she watched in 2024, Succession, Severance, and Silo. Which is interesting because Severance hasn't been on since like 2021, I think, or 2022.
I just watched it less than a year ago as well. So,
the new season is coming in January, finally.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. And Succession also is an older show, right? Silo is from, either this year or last year, but anyways.
Stephanie only watches shows that start with the letter S.
Top movie, Deadpool and Wolverine, which I haven't seen. And I actually asked my son what his top shows and movies are. And he did say that Deadpool and Wolverine was his favorite movie of the year easily. So she's not alone there. Top documentary for Stephanie was Still, the Michael J. Fox story, which I don't know where that's available. It actually sounds like a good thing to watch, to be honest.
It does sound interesting. I had not heard of it till just now.
And her top song, Save It for Later, Eddie Vedder, which is from the show The Bear. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me by Taylor Swift. And 2 podcasts that she listened to other than ours, Smartless. I'm sure you've listened to Smartless.
I've listened to it once. I didn't really love it.
And Pod Crushed. I don't know what that is. So I don't know what it is.
Well, thanks for all those awards.
Yeah. And Derek replied to her saying that Save It for Later by Eddie Vedder is also his favorite song of the year. Pretty interesting, no? I think that song caught a lot of people, like grabbed a lot of people. It started, if you're a fan of The Bear, it started the season with that song. It was kind of good. It was.
But I hope everyone knows it's a really old song.
I don't think people know that. I mean, I think Stephanie and Derek know that, but I don't think people know that. No.
Okay.
I asked my kids to tell me about their Apple Replay 2024, where it tells you like your favorites, your top artist songs, like everything you listened to this year.
Before you tell me, by the way, so you mentioned this to me last week, like your Spotify, what do they call it?
Well, on Spotify it's called Wrapped, and on Apple it's called Replay, but
right.
It's the same idea.
So I had not heard about this until you mentioned it a week ago. And since you mentioned it, this is all I've been hearing all week. Everyone's talking about their Spotify list and their Apple list. Yeah. Even my my PC Optimum app has told me the food that I bought the most in 2024.
Can you tell me what it was? Nestea.
It wasn't actually. I don't remember what it was. I'd have to go back and look at it.
I love that. So everybody's getting in on the game here. So it's interesting because I have 2 kids and they clearly have completely different tastes in music. So it just goes to show you can raise them right. Like obviously I haven't listened to really like much of what either of my music taste is not the same as either of theirs. Closer to my daughter's, but so Matthew's list is only rap. So like his top artists are Kanye West and Juice WRLD. And all the songs are basically those artists, basically. Like it's all, I didn't even know some of the other artists, to be perfectly honest. And then Selena's replay is totally dominated by Taylor Swift, as you can expect, but it's also full of all the new pop starlets, right? So Sabrina Carpenter, Gracie Abrams, Olivia Rodrigo, all that. That's what she's got. So it's pretty interesting, like to see how that plays out.
I think Gracie Abrams might be on SNL this week or next week.
That's very possible. Yeah, She's super hot right now. She's like the most popular thing going. And I just want to add one thing, because I did mention my honorable mentions for show of the year, and I did tell you that Shogun is my show of the year, and I'm not backtracking on that. And I did tell you that Survivor was in my honorable mentions for show of the year. But I just want to emphasize how great Survivor is.
I'm stunned to hear this. I know every year you tell me how much you love this show, but this show is so old, and I watched, the first 2, maybe 3 seasons, and then I never watched it again. And the fact that you're still watching it's amazing to me.
It's better than ever. I mean, I haven't watched all the seasons. Like I watched the beginning, and then I took a break in the middle, and then I came back to it the last, let's say 4 or 5 years, since the pandemic. But this season, Survivor 47, is absolutely unbelievable. The episode that was on Wednesday was incredible, and the finale is coming this week, and I can't wait to see who wins. But I just want to tell you, I just want to let people know I'm a huge fan of Survivor, and Survivor is still like the king of reality TV, and actually definitely the best show on regular network television.
Is it not the same thing every season? Is it not? How could it be different?
I mean, they changed it up a little bit in the last 10 seasons. They call it the new era, but it's still basically the same thing. But it doesn't matter. It's the people who are on it, and I don't know. It's just there's something about the way they produce that show. They can make so much drama. It's really, really fun to watch. It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, so that's all I have to say about Survivor. I don't want to make this into a Survivor show.
Okay, well, thanks for that. And we'll be right back after this to bring you our best of 2024 sports edition.
You're listening to Unscripted.
I'm Joseph DeMedictis.
And I'm Ross Citrullo.
And we're doing this podcast so we don't have to go home and get a real job.
Exactly.
That's right. And we're doing it to tell you about our pursuit of the dreams we've had since being a kid, being young, trying to get into the entertainment industry. Us, we're mid-career, sort of. We're kind of halfway broken in a way. But we both have these big dreams and big goals.
Aspirations, really.
For our careers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. This podcast is about the journey through the industry, trying to make it, but trying not to have to give up.
So listen to our podcasts on all the places you might listen to a podcast. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We have our own YouTube channel where you can watch the video version. All the links can be found at you'llnevermakeit.ca. Here's hoping we do.
And now, back to Unscripted.
Okay, Skip, we're back.
So this week we are going to talk about our favorite things that happened in the world of sports in 2024. We're going to talk about our favorite play, the worst play, also, our favorite game, favorite team, and then we're going to finish it off with our favorite athlete of the year. I don't know about you. How hard was it for you to make this list, and how quickly did you do it? Because somehow every year, I don't want to say I struggle with this, but it takes me a while to compile this. And you have to look back on the whole year. You got to think about all the sports, everything that happened. But I compiled this really quickly. Really quickly. I was like, bing, bing, bing. The choices seem fairly obvious to me. So I'm excited to hear yours, because I want to know maybe if we have the same, but I think we have one the same for sure.
So it was difficult. 3 of the categories were difficult because there were a bunch of good plays. There were a bunch of really bad plays, actually, too. That was a tough one.
The bad plays is always more fun. But
yes. And I don't know, for favorite game, I had narrowed it down to 8 different games. That's a lot of games. And then I had to pick one in the end. And even the one I picked, I just finally decided about an hour ago, okay, I'm picking this one as the best game. But even, the ones I didn't pick, there are easily 2, maybe 3 others that I didn't pick that could be the best game of the year.
I had a really hard time with favorite game. I couldn't, I can't wait to hear your 8 or at least 5 of yours. Let's go. So let's get into it. You want to start off with the best play? What was your favorite one single play in sports this year?
So I had narrowed it down to, I think, 6 or 7 different plays, various different sports. I'm going to go with, so I don't know if you recall, and maybe you didn't even watch, Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals. This is the game that Edmonton beat Florida to force a 7th game. And late in the game with, I don't know, about a minute left, Florida pulls their goalie and Edmonton's about to score into an empty net. And Matthew Tkachuk is skating as fast as he possibly can towards his own net. And he dives and somehow he prevents the puck from going into the empty net with his stick. Like he's literally on the ice. I think his whole body's on the ice. And he stops it from going in. So the effort involved there was incredible. And the fact that he was able to get there, but not only get there, because in his diving to try to stop the puck, he could have easily pushed it into his own net, but he didn't. Somehow he was able to sort of scoop it out and it didn't go in. It was a very impressive play. Now, that being my favorite play of the year, a very close second, I have to mention it because it was very close, also happened during the NHL playoffs a few rounds earlier when Sam Bennett of the Florida Panthers, my hero, punched Brad Marchand in the face, which forced him to leave the game and miss the next game. That could have easily been my favorite play of the year.
My hero, eh? He punched Marchand in the face.
He is my hero. You recall we did Hero of the Week that week, and he got my Hero of the Week.
I remember it well, Josh. I remember it well. So my best play of the year happened during, it's a soccer play. So it happened during the Euro that took place this summer. Now, as you know, I was in England this summer. So here I am with my wife, and we're in a pub in York, in England, and England versus Slovakia is on every TV in the whole country, right? So England is literally on the brink of elimination in the 95th minute. The game is tied, but a tie is not going to get them through to the next round. And literally out of nowhere, Jude Bellingham, in the 95th minute of the game, hits this overhead kick for a goal. And I mean, it literally doesn't get more dramatic. The pub was silent. People cursing England, saying their like every kind of curse and derogatory thing you can say about your team, your country, the players. And then all of a sudden, everything changed. The place exploded. Glasses were breaking. Stuff was flying. People were going nuts. So, I mean, because of the play itself and also the circumstance where I found myself watching this play, that has to be my play of the year. And unfortunately, England did not go on to win, but they came really close again. I mean, win the whole thing, I should say.
I actually do remember that play, and I think I even remember you telling me the story when you got back to Canada.
Yeah. It was really, really something special, honestly.
Okay, so you're now going to tell us your worst play of the year.
I mean, it's not hard. We've talked about them. There's a lot of recency bias here because we've talked about a bunch of these plays recently in the baseball playoffs. And, the Yankees made 3 errors in Game 5 of the World Series that basically lost the game for them. And, you can easily point to Aaron Judge just dropping a fly ball. But, like, the worst play of the year has to be the play that happened right after that, which is the little ground ball to first base where Anthony Rizzo and Garrett Cole just looked at each other and was like, are you covering first base? Am I covering first base? Oh, you got it? Oh, I got it? Oh, no one's got it. Everybody's safe. The game's over now. Like, that's literally what happened, So, like, for me, just like the ultimate brain fart of a play, like where they just couldn't figure out what to do, that's number one. There's some honorable mentions here. Obviously, the Yankee fans trying to rip off Mookie Betts' arm. I mean, I don't think it was, you can't call it the worst play because, he caught the ball, but like in terms of like the infamy of it, it's right up there. And then like, it's not a play, but like the worst thing that a sports team did this year was the Team Canada women's soccer team at the Olympics. The whole scandal with flying the drone over the opposing team's practice, like that's also one of the dumbest things like you could do, like, and not just flying the drone. Like if you want to cheat and fly a drone and get caught, that's up to you. But like the stupidity of it is This is in the Olympics with the highest security that there is in the world at this time. They're closed the airspace over Paris. They don't want any aircraft because it's too dangerous. And here you are flying a drone. So like literally like the person who did it like actually got arrested. They handcuffed the person and took them to jail, you know? So like that goes down as like also honorable mention, worst, it's not a play, but worst sports related story, I guess.
And to follow up on that, as I said to a friend of mine when we were talking about that, like, really, you need to record a team's practice? You could just watch that team's previous game or previous 10 games, which, by the way, you're allowed to do. It's not illegal. And you could probably learn more from watching their games than you would from one practice.
You know, every person who knows a lot more about soccer than me and you, especially like what happens at tournament time, professional, amateur, like Olympic, you know, this kind of soccer. Every single person said there's almost nothing to be gained by spying on a team's practice. Like there's literally almost nothing to be gained. Like what you could see who the penalty taker is going to be. You could see maybe like a set play they might be practicing to run. But like you're not going to really gain anything, you know? So it's that the whole thing is so stupid. Anyways, let's hear your worst play.
Okay, so your Anthony Rizzo, Garrett Cole play, that was like third worst play of the year.
Wow, okay.
The worst play of the year happened in the NFL. It happened on Thanksgiving Day. It happened between the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. There was 36 seconds left in the game, and the Bears were driving the field and had a chance to either tie or take the lead. And for some strange reason, Chicago Bears coach Matt Eberflus decided not to use a timeout that he had left available to him. And the Bears took forever to run the next play. And when they finally ran the play and it was an incomplete pass, afterwards there was no time left on the clock and no time for another play. And there was that one timeout that the Bears never ended up using. And by the way, Matt Eberflus got fired. I don't think he got fired immediately after the game, although some Bears fans wanted it to happen, but he did get fired.
He got fired literally like the few days later. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, there are things that in a game you have no control over, but there are things that you do have control over. Calling a timeout is one of those things that you can control. And not using your timeout at that point was insane to me. And he tried to defend himself and explain why he didn't call the timeout and what the plan was. But whatever the plan was, it didn't work.
No, the worst part is he came out after the game and they asked him about it and he's like, we made the right call. We made the call we wanted to make. I'm like, whoa. If that's the call you wanted to make, you're done. Like literally, like you can't say that. Like it blew my mind. Like this guy, did he actually believe that or was he just saying it? I don't know, but it's ridiculous.
Now with 36 seconds left, you do have time to run more than one play. Like if it's an incomplete pass, the clock stops, but they took forever to snap the ball, which teams do for some strange reason. But anyway, and especially if you've got a rookie quarterback who maybe isn't familiar with what to do, that's the perfect time to call a timeout, calm things down, and set up the next play. In any case, that wasn't the only reason he got fired. You could go back to when the Bears lost to Washington on that Hail Mary. That play was also defended completely wrong. And I'm sure that had a lot to do with why he got fired as well.
I mean, the Bears just completely underperformed this year. Like, if you rewind time and go back to kickoff of game 1 of the NFL season and talk to Chicago Bears fans, they all thought they were making the playoffs this year. Every Chicago Bears fan thought, this is it, we're making the playoffs. And I told every Bears fan that I know, you are delusional. You are crazy. Because in the 100-year history of your team, you've never had a good quarterback once. Not once. Not once. They have not had a good quarterback in 100 years. So to think this guy, Caleb Williams, is going to come in and be your savior, no way.
But like until that game against Washington, they had a really good start to the season.
They did start off well because they had a very easy start, their schedule. But yeah, no, they're no good. I mean, come on.
And they could have won that game against Washington, and they could have won that game against Detroit. And their record, whatever it is, could be much better today.
Yeah, but bad teams find a way of being bad.
Right. You know? So that's my worst play of the year.
That's worthy. That's definitely worthy. All right, so you told me you had 8 games. I have 1. Let me just go with my 1 because I don't have 8.
I think I know which one you're going to pick, and it's on my list, but it's not my favorite game.
Well, I think when you look at the best games of the year, you want to have competitive games, maybe a game that went into overtime, maybe a championship game, games with a lot at stake. So I think the Super Bowl, which took place way earlier, many months ago, Super Bowl 58 between the Chiefs and the 49ers, I think to me was the game of the year. It finished 25-22. The Chiefs won in overtime. Like, there's 5 times in this game where I thought the Chiefs were down and out. There's one play where if the 49ers get a first down, the game's over. And in the end, the Chiefs figured out how to win. And actually, with help from the 49ers, who seemingly did not know the rule of when they flipped the coin to who was going to either receive the kickoff or kick in overtime, the 49ers seem to not understand the slight nuance between a regular season game and a playoff game overtime. And they elected to take the ball. And actually, you have microphones in the coin flip and of Patrick Mahomes going back to the sideline saying they want to take the ball. I don't know what they're doing, but they want to take the ball. Like, he was confused. Like, the Chiefs were confused as to why the 49ers decided what they did. Anyways, the Chiefs ended up winning their second Super Bowl in a row. That's my game of the year.
So that was a great game, and it did make my list, but it wasn't my favorite game.
Let's hear it.
There were a few good NFL games in the regular season this year. You know, the Bills and the Rams, the Bills and the Chiefs, the Lions and the Packers. But none of those were my favorite. And I could have just easily picked game 1 from the World Series, which was a very exciting game because it went into extra innings, and Freddie Freeman hit a grand slam in the bottom of the 10th to win the game. So that could have been the best game of the year.
That was an honorable mention for my play of the year, which I didn't mention before. But like the Freddie Freeman home run, the drama of it was pretty insane. Yeah.
But my favorite game of the year was a baseball game the day after the regular season ended, when the Mets and the Braves had to play 2 games that got rained out a few days earlier. And basically, each of them had to win one of the 2 games in order to get in the playoffs. Yeah. So whoever wins the first game, you can relax. You don't have to worry. Anyway, in that first game between the Mets and the Braves, I don't know if you remember the final score, the Mets won 8-7. But there were a bunch of lead changes in that game. The Braves got out to a 3-0 lead in that game. And then in the 8th inning, the Mets scored 6 runs to take a 6-3 lead. And you thought, that's it. It's 6-3 in the 8th inning. The Mets are winning this game. But wait, the Braves score 4 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning to make it 7-6 Atlanta. And then what happens in the top of the 9th? The Mets score 2 more runs to make it 8-7, and they end up winning the game. That was a very exciting game, I have to say, and a lot of lead changes and all the emotions going on, because it's basically like a winner take all. Like it's a 1 game elimination, sort of, even though they did play 2 games. So that was my favorite game of the year.
That's a good one. Francisco Lindor was the big hero.
That's right.
All right. Do you have a favorite team this year?
For me, favorite team and favorite athlete were pretty easy. I didn't have a huge internal debate. My favorite team was the men's 4x100 relay team that won the gold medal at the Olympics. So that's Andre DeGrasse, Aaron Brown, Jerome Blake, and Brendan Rodney. So this was not really expected. I don't know that anyone expected Canada to even get a medal in this event, but they actually ended up with the gold, winning with 37.5 seconds in a time, I should say, of 37.5 seconds. So it was a stunning upset to the entire world. And it was also extra sweet because the Americans were favored to win and they blew it. Now, by the way, I'll also mention that those 4 runners on the Canadian team, they all had their individual events prior to this, and they didn't do really well or didn't do well at all in their individual events. So this was basically their last chance to redeem their Olympics and go home with something. So that may have had something to do with the fact that they dug a little deeper and won the gold medal.
I had that. I had the men's 4x100 as an honorable mention. Because actually, in terms of Canada at the Olympics this year, that was like the moment, like, I think, you know, like for a lot of people, because of the circumstances, what you said, like it was so unexpected, and actually the Americans were so brash and so sure they were going to win. You know, all the memes went around the internet of the American runner saying Canada, like who's Canada, you know, like like before the race, or actually I think it was a year before that clip was taken out of context. But anyways, still. Really, really good. But so I did not pick them as my team of the year because the Boston Celtics won their 18th championship and their first one since 2008. And as a huge Celtics fan, following this team for the last, let's say, 5 years with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and the development of the team and just the way the team is run, they basically created a super team. Like their team is actually unbelievable. And the rest of the league is like, their team is a super team. Oh my God. Like they're all homegrown. They're all guys that anybody could have had. You know what I mean? Like they drafted Brown and Tatum. You know, the only guy, Porzingis, they signed him. No one wanted him. Porzingis, like anybody could have got that guy if they wanted him. Derek White went into them play for USA in the Olympics. This guy, no one heard of him 2 years ago. They got him from a trade from San Antonio for nothing, you know? And the guys they have on the bench are guys that Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, these guys are guys they drafted and developed themselves, you know? So, I mean, and then Al Horford. I mean, the guys that have been in the league since Bill Russell, you know? So like, it was such a great story, and really like a not exciting playoffs because they kind of won so easily. Like they went through the East so easily, and then they dispatched Dallas so easily that it was kind of anticlimactic. And I just love how all the Celtics haters had to eat their words throughout, you know? Every round, like, oh, the Celtics could be beat. Then everyone's finding a reason why they might lose, and like they didn't even come close to losing, you know? You know, I tell my son when we watch basketball, like, even this year and last year, the Celtics shoot so many threes, right? Like they shoot threes like at a crazy clip, like 50 threes a game, easily, you know? And when you play that style, you can blow teams out, but you are susceptible to losing. Like sometimes they're up by 20, and then all of a sudden, because they miss 4 shots in a row, next thing you know, the game, like the other team's able to make a run, you know, it's because of it's like, so if they go cold from 3, they're like, they could get like the score can flip really, really quickly. And it's the same thing that happens in playoff games. There's just one playoff game where if they only shoot 30% from 3 instead of 35% from 3, like the basketball's become a math problem now. Like that's the difference between winning and losing, you know?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, so I love the Celtics. I hope they win again this year. They are the favorite again in 2025, and I think it was just fun as a Celtics fan to sit back and watch them dominate the playoffs. All right, favorite athlete. I think we're going to have the same pick, Josh. This is where I think we're going to converge.
I think we are.
Well, you always make it a point of picking from Olympic sports or world championships, women's leagues, stuff that I might not really pay attention to. So am I right in saying that you have Summer McIntosh as your athlete of the year?
I do. And you will recall that she was my runner-up last year because she had a phenomenal year last year, but she had an even better year this year.
Yeah. I mean, she's the dominant person in her sport. And she's only 18 years old. And the next Olympics are going to be like huge for her again. She's going to dominate again. So it's really incredible for a Canadian to be proud of like this Olympic athlete who's really like at the top of their sport, you know?
By the way, you mentioned she's only 18, and you're right. But when she won her 3 gold medals and silver at the Olympics this summer, she wasn't even 18 yet.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
So she's 18 now, and I don't know if you know that currently, as we speak, this week, the World Aquatic Swimming Championships are happening. And this week alone, at the Swimming Championships, she won the women's 400-meter freestyle in world record time. She also broke a world record in a dominant victory in the women's 200-meter butterfly. And she added a bronze in the women's 4x100-meter freestyle relay. That's what she's already done this week. Now, She's swimming again today and tomorrow in two individual events. So she has a chance to win 2 more medals. And she may also swim in a relay today and another relay tomorrow, depending on how tired she is. And so she's got a chance to win a bunch more medals. Now, at this event, for every event you win money. And this week alone, she's earned $70,000 so far.
Wow.
Which I know it pales in comparison to like Juan Soto's contract, but still is not bad for an 18-year-old swimmer.
That's what Juan Soto makes just for like taking one swing.
Right, exactly. And I don't know if you heard, this week she was named the recipient of this year's Northern Star Award, which goes to the Canadian Athlete of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, she's in Canada. She's going to get all the accolades in these year-end type of shows like we're doing, when people talk about the Canadian sports, I mean, obviously. And, when all is said and done, she'll go down as the greatest ever Canadian Olympian in terms of medals, because she's going to rack up medals now. Like,
right. I mean, unless 10 years from now, someone else comes along and breaks her records.
I mean, I guess, but I mean, she has a chance of, because she's starting so young, she has a chance of like doing 2 more Olympics, maybe. I don't know, like, or at least, one more, which is going to get her a bunch of medals, and then who knows, right? So it's pretty interesting.
My athlete of the year last year, you recall, was Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and he's having another phenomenal year. You might even say he's having a better season this year than he did last season. But I was disappointed with Canada's basketball team at the Olympics. Had they won a medal, or had Oklahoma City won the NBA championship, you might be able to make an argument for Gilgeous-Alexander. But this year for me, it was Summer McIntosh.
Me too. I mean, I had some honorable mentions, Connor McDavid, Shohei Ohtani, but like, I mean, Summer McIntosh was the kind of an easy pick for me, I think.
Me too.
So that's the year in sports.
Okay. Well, that was fun to do, but we'll be right back after this with some final thoughts.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Hey everyone, Skip here. I'm really excited to invite all of you to follow my new account at Skip Cooks on Instagram and TikTok. I'll be sharing my love of cooking with recipes in the form of 1-minute music videos, all set to some of my favorite songs. Don't miss out, follow me, and let's have some fun in the kitchen.
Unscripted with Skip and Josh is available wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. To interact with the show, send an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. Follow the show on Twitter and go to Facebook to like the show page. And now, some final thoughts from the guys.
So, in terms of final thoughts, I mean, this is our last episode of the year, but like the story that dominated this past week was something we already just mentioned super quick a couple minutes ago, which is Juan Soto's contract. Do you have any thoughts about this? Like, I just like, I'm numb to the number. Like when you see these numbers, it's so absurd. But like, when you actually look at it, it's such a bad contract. like who were they bidding against? How did Soto's agent Boras get that number so high? Like, this is like $200 million more than Ohtani, like from last year, right? Like,
but also it's
obscene.
5 extra years. So if you divide it by year, then it's actually less than Ohtani.
But think about Aaron Judge. This guy signed a contract 2 years ago. It was the biggest contract in the history. This is double. Double, right?
I know, and he's not double the player Aaron Judge is. He's not.
No, he's kind of the same,
but the problem is, that every year, and this goes back like 20, 30, 40 years, every year when you hear about a free agent signing in almost any sport, the most recent signing is always the highest one. But
I think this is going to stop that. I think this is going to stop that trend. I think this number is so absurd that whoever the next big free agent is, because there's not going to be a free agent as good as Soto or Ohtani was last year, right? So,
no, there won't be, but it's going to elevate everyone's contract. Even like if you're the 25th guy on the roster, you're now going to get more money than you would have otherwise.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with that. Like, I don't think we're going to see a $700 million contract in the next few years. I think this is like the one and only, right? But you're right. In terms of the average salary of every player in the league, it's crazy. And I don't understand baseball. Like, how do they have this money? Like, I don't understand.
The problem is there's no salary cap in baseball. I mean, there is, but it's not a real salary cap because if you exceed it, all you have to do is pay the penalty. And so, teams like the Mets and the Yankees and the Dodgers and even the Blue Jays and the Red Sox, they don't care. They'll just spend and spend and spend because the owners of those teams, they have other businesses and you're allowed to use your money that you make in your other business to pay for these players. Like you can't do that in the NHL. I don't think you can do that in the NBA or the NFL either. So baseball has no salary cap, which means that there are basically only 6, maybe 8 teams in baseball that can compete for free agents. That's all there is.
I know. I mean, like right now it's the winter meetings, like that this past week, right? Which is like all the free agents get signed and a lot of players get signed. And we did see some players change teams and get signed to contracts, other players. But like basically at least half the league or slightly more than half are not even participating in free agency.
It's like, more than half.
Yeah, like in the NHL, they have like free agent frenzy like on July 1st, and TSN makes a whole deal of it. They show all the players that get signed, and it's really fun, and everybody's watching these contracts and players changing teams. Like, that's done in baseball because like more than half the league is just like, we're out. Like, I'm done. I can't even, like we're not participating in this,
Not only that, but the teams, those teams that spend less money who currently have good players, they trade away their good players because they know when this guy gets to free agency, we're not going to be able to keep him. So we might as well trade him now while he's good and while we can get something for him. So they're in a constant rebuild, constantly.
Sports is crazy.
So last week I mentioned the show Daisy Jones and the Six.
Yeah.
And one of the actresses in the show, Suki Waterhouse.
Yeah, sure. I know.
So I don't know if you know, Suki Waterhouse is an actual musician,
yes,
singer, and actually she's performing in concert tonight in Montreal and tomorrow night in Toronto.
So her boyfriend is Robert Pattinson, the guy from Twilight movies, the vampire.
I haven't seen any of those movies, so I don't know who he is.
Yeah. Anyways, it's kind of interesting. Yeah. It was great talking to you about our favorite stuff of the year from the world of sports. I do like a lot of your picks, most of them. I think we agree on a lot. And I just want to say thank you for doing this podcast again this year. I can't believe we got through another year of doing this podcast. I think it was a challenging year for the both of us. And I really look forward to doing this show with you every 2 weeks. It was really great this year doing this podcast.
Thank you. And I echo those thoughts. It was fun to do this show, and it was challenging sometimes to come up with topics week after week or every other week. I already am trying to think of what 26 topics we're going to do next year.
It's funny because we have a list and we rarely consult the list, right? Like new topics emerge, right? So I think that's kind of cool.
Well, we know what our first episode next year will be, but don't tell the listeners yet. And normally I would say to you, have a good week, but we won't be recording again until January. So it's going to be more than a week until you hear from us again. Yeah.
Well, I just want to, before we sign off, I just want to thank everybody for listening. Anybody who downloads and listens to us, thanks so much. It's really appreciate that. And just to wish everybody a great holiday and Hanukkah if you celebrate, great Christmas if you celebrate, Happy New Year if you celebrate. I think most people do. And we'll see you next year.
Happy holidays to everyone and all the best for 2025.